Marfoogle News going live in 3, 2. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. We've got a couple of really, really insane stories right now. Of course, this huge earthquake, this is not the first one we've actually covered. In fact, it wasn't too long ago. I don't know if this actual article has the date of it, but it was about a month ago. And who knows, this could be just an aftershock that is happening, but it is kind of odd that it is in the Kamchatka. We're hearing about this again. Now, why I say this is because obviously big earthquakes also can trigger the Ring of Fire. You have all sorts of big earthquakes that happen all the time, but it depends on where they are. And at a certain, a certain level of earthquake, everybody pays attention no matter where it is, right? Even if it's out in the middle of nowhere, people pay attention when you have these big earthquakes because it could actually trigger other earthquakes. I think Dutch called them antipodes, and I don't know if that's the actual name for them, but that's what I've always known them as. But antipodes essentially mean that one earthquake could trigger another. Now, when you see, this earthquake, I think of the Poseidon missile, or the torpedo, I should correct that. The torpedo, which is supposedly supposed to be able to create up to a 1,500-foot tsunami wave. It is called the tsunami bomb. And it is something that, who knows, I think it is true. If you blow up a big enough thing underwater, it is going to cause a wave. But what we're talking about is on an epic scale. We're talking out of like disaster movies. And I really do wonder, there's a small part of me that thinks if this was coordinated and if there were people at the very top that were, coordinating a war to further their agendas, it would be pretty nuts to do something like that. People would remember it forever. It would be something that no one would ever forget. I mean, it would be on a whole nother scale. We, of course, have 9/11, which no one has forgotten. We have 2011, when that tsunami happened in Japan. That's one thing that is directly compared. Like, everyone knows where they were when that tsunami happened. Now just imagine that times, I think, 150. That's what's so crazy about this. And again, this is a big earthquake. The USGS actually said that the quake was measured at a magnitude of 7.8 and a depth of about 6.2 miles or 10 kilometers. It also said that a series of aftershocks followed, measuring up to 5.8. So the 5.8, the aftershocks on this thing were almost as big as the big earthquake that Seattle had, the Nisqually quake, long time ago. So this is an incredible quake. As far as 7.8, if you were anywhere near that, you would be having problems right now. But as far as this goes, there was a tsunami warning. I think that it was lifted, but mainly I'm paying attention to this because this is multiple times in multiple months that there is a strange earthquake that has I shouldn't call it strange, an earthquake in the same sort of area by Russia, and we do know that they have this weapon, and we are at the tip of a spear with, of course, World War III. So we'll go over that, and then on tonight's show after this, we're going to talk today on this short, again, about some really, really insane stuff. Of course, the New York Times is talking about civil war. We'll talk about that here in a second. Also, we're going to be talking about the helicopter. Remember yesterday when we told you that there was a close call and that the air traffic controller was talking to essentially a plane that was lined up to possibly crash into the president's plane? That was yesterday. We'll talk about this next one in just a second. But I do want to remind you guys, we are completely independent. We're on our own. If you do want to support us and get yourself prepared at the same time, this is a very affordable device that can actually protect you not only against EMP, but also against a CME, or a coronal mass ejection from the sun. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. In less than 10 minutes, you can have this wired into your car, and you can get home to your family or get out to bug out after multiple EMP strikes. When everybody else is stuck, that's a pretty handy thing. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. And they have all sorts of details over there. If you want to find a different device, they have them for cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, Starlinks, radios, modems, everything you can think of, they have. All right. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugle fam. I'm doing just fine.
All right, so let's talk about the New York Times is essentially, and this is so weird because we have theories here, and we say them, with the community. We think of this stuff happening, and that this is a possibility. I said this within 10 minutes of this thing happening. I saw it right away. But as far as this goes, and you can go to that same day. Within that same day, myself and many others called this, something to possibly cause a divide. Now that the New York Times is saying it, I bet our entire community is probably going to, I don't know, probably push back on it. But Dex, do you want to talk about what they said here and why this is important?
Yeah, they're basically saying that Russia, Iran, and China have spread thousands of false or incendiary claims about what happened to Kirk. And they're doing it in an effort to stoke political division in our country or portray the United States as a dysfunctional country. So the official state media in the three countries mentioned him 6,200 times from the 10th to the 17th, framing it as a conspiracy. Though they differed on nature, on the plot involved and how it was laid out, but they always turned it into something very conspiratorial from their sides. It's obvious that what they want is they want to sow division in our country, which goes back to the thought that we've been saying all along. There is some foreign influence here, whether it be monetary or just in this case, messaging of misinformation or information narratives they're trying to push into America.
So I've been saying this for the entire week since it happened, and that day was absolutely horrid for anybody that saw that. Really, I mean, people, people sometimes go their entire lives without seeing something so graphic and just horrible as that, and it really did burn an image into people's heads, right? And as far as this goes, this is what we've been saying since day one, and now they're saying it. But is this also, looking at this from a different angle, is this to cover up the many just regular people who literally just do not believe the narrative, right? Because there is a camp that essentially believes what the FBI says. There is a camp that says they don't believe it. There is a camp that believes that there was a second or even third person involved at the location to his left or right. There's videos saying that he's still alive. There's all sorts of crazy info out there. And it is nuts because this is everywhere. My 19-year-old daughter, I'm not on TikTok. I barely used it in the last year. But usually it's my our tablet that we have or my daughter's phone that I'm seeing TikTok videos. She literally showed me, she said, it is all I see. And we were swiping for 45 good minutes, and it was like maybe 1 out of 10 videos was not Charlie Kirk related. Everything else was. So that tells me that this is that, there is some verification there as far as what they want to do. I mean, it does work to their example. Dex and I talked about, I've done a lot of research on China itself, the country, and even its history going back 1,000 years. Technically 1,100 years that my study went to. And as far as China, I see Xi Jinping taking Genghis Khan's leads. He has done the Belt and Road Initiative, very similar to the Silk Road, right? He looks at Genghis Khan and how much land he conquered. Genghis Khan conquered the most land in history. Again, he actually was the, I guess, best conqueror in the world. And of course, Genghis Khan would send in, these political spies into towns and villages and essentially start rumors that would get everybody fighting. And by the time he got there with his army, half of them were already gone because they had taken each other out. This is like, 101 in propaganda or gaslighting or whatever you want to call it. But it's crazy to see this and to say it from day one, and then now they're saying that there's thousands of bots. But are they saying that those are AI and that those people aren't having a problem with this story? I don't know. But there is a lot to have a problem with as far as the weapon being taken apart, him changing on the roof. I don't know how he had time to do that. All of these different things that, of course, everybody has a problem with. But this is something that, you really got to pay attention. I mean, it's saying in the New York Times right now that Russia, China, and Iran are using this murder to essentially stoke these theories and division. Now, it is if this was them and this was just purely them fueling it, then they are successful. You cannot scroll on Twitter more than 5 videos without getting 5 different theories of what is going on. So, people are pissed off. People are mobilized. I mean, you got Greg Gutfeld. I don't think it's an accident that Greg Gutfeld gets on camera and says, we're hard to radicalize, but you just did, and you just woke us the F up. Like, you have Elon Musk making these comments. And Dex, did you actually read what Elon said? I was trying to paraphrase, but I don't want to screw it up too bad. Did you see his comments about taking action or fight or die, I think it was? Did you see that?
Remember. I don't know which one you're referring to, but probably.
So
I probably did, but I don't know it. So.
5 different tweets saying fight or die. I believe that's how many there are. And he's, you've got all sorts of crazy things going on. Most of the left right now is just talking about Jimmy Kimmel, which we did kind of mention last night, but Jimmy Kimmel was actually canceled because he essentially said that the Tyler Robinson was on the left, or I'm sorry, on the right side, on the MAGA side, right? So he said that, and because of that, the FCC is going after him and saying that he can't be on there or something.
Actually, the largest television
FCC
the largest television distributor said they were going to pull the show.
Disney.
And, no, the largest Nexstar, who has the largest number of television stations that they own that distribute ABC, said they were going to displace the show on their systems, and so they pulled it because of that. And of course, the FCC did mention that there was mention that the FCC would do something, but it was not anything formal from the FCC.
I'm going to say something that's going to piss some people off, and I've been doing this for years, and especially in the first few years, it's like I was so afraid to say anything that went against the grain or went against the community. I'll tell you this: I hate. I'm sorry, I shouldn't use the word hate. There's not a person on TV I dislike more than Jimmy Kimmel, and I used to like him, The Man Show, and I think, didn't he also host with Dr. Drew the show? I can't remember the radio show, True Love or Loveline.
That was his partner. That was the other guy.
Yeah, but wasn't he on Loveline with him, or was that Dr. Drew?
Adam Carolla. It was just Adam Carolla.
You're right. So what was Jimmy Kimmel other than The Man Show? What was he in other than that?
All I knew it was The Man Show.
Oh, well, The Man Show is funny, but now he is just so... I mean, somebody did a survey. 95% of his monologues are all about the president. Now, I'm okay if you don't like the president. That's your opinion, and we all should have one. That's what Kirk was fighting for. But to spend all day, every day on a single human being, and I understand this is a very important human being with a lot of power, but to spend all day, every day talking about him is absurd. But I don't think what the FCC did was right, or I don't think pushing on him because he said that comment, get fined or get something else. Because you have to understand, once you push into that gray area, it can happen on the other side. This is what we said when, we were getting censored all over the place a few years ago during CV, and everybody was cheering it on the left. And, people said, hey, watch out, because eventually this will come back to you. That's essentially what's going on. I don't actually agree with it. I think that this is, whether he hates him or not, and he is his biggest critic, you can tell he literally hates him. He said it. He said him and Colbert and all of these other critics. And mind you, I would too. If they spent every single night doing their monologue about me, just making fun of me every single night. I mean, you consider this bullying if it's teenagers, right? But for him, it's not. I mean, they talk about his hair, his physical looks, his skin, everything that the left says that, that you're not supposed to shame people for. That's what Jimmy Kimmel does on a nightly basis. I think it's just absolutely disgusting. You guys know, and sometimes I'll slip up and I'll say something mean about somebody, but most of the time I think about it. I especially think about it because I have 4 kids, and if you do that in front of your kids, then they end up absorbing it. So again, with this, this is really something that people on both sides should actually not support this, because if you look at his actual comments, they are disgusting. He should be fined, possibly suspended. but I can't believe I'm agreeing and defending Jimmy Kimmel. That's a fact. And then Donald Trump's helicopter. Yesterday, there was a close call with a Spirit Airlines 1300 flight where the air traffic controller said he had to talk to the guy twice. Every single thing he said, he had to say it twice. He literally told the pilot to get off his iPad because he assumed that he's sitting there watching a movie or falling asleep with autopilot on, and he couldn't communicate with him. I mentioned him, Dex, we talked about this, Dex. This is so weird because we talked about the whole idea of possible hacking or jamming or something going on with our airline systems that would essentially cut communication or screw up the communication between the air traffic controller and the pilot. Imagine if something like that happened. It made it look like an accident. A plane hit the presidential, Air Force One, or they take down a passenger jet of 300 people because it's about to hit the president because it's probably escorted by jets. And now this happens? Dex, do you want to talk about what actually happened with this helicopter thing? And I understand you might not have the same view of this, but this is a little weird.
Well, I mean, look, twice seems weird, but back-to-back issues with the transportation of our president, it makes you question, right? But they basically said his helicopter was forced to make an emergency landing on its journey from Chequers to London Stansted Airport. The president and First Lady Melania Trump were aboard the helicopter as part of the first leg of their journey back to the United States when the pilot had to make the landing. He said, due to a minor hydraulic issue and out of an abundance of caution, the pilots landed at a local airfield before getting to Stansted Airport. So they had to, I guess, check the hydraulic system. There was something off with it. Obviously, nothing happened. They landed, emergency landing. It's not like this was a crash or anything like that, but they were able to then carry on and finish the flight and get him to Air Force One so he could travel to his next destination.
We talked about this potential event. In fact, we specifically talked about an event like this with the president because it was back when in California, I don't know if you remember this, but Ospreys were like landing in residential neighborhoods, and it was really weird. And a lot of folks thought that maybe Biden was on it. Maybe it was Trump. I forget which president it was. I mean, we've been on this show for 8-9 years now. But the Ospreys were landing, and everybody wondered about it. And the president, we obviously, as a community, everybody came together and said that the president doesn't ride on Ospreys because they don't have, what is it called? Auto rotation, I think. Isn't that what it's called? Or self-rotation? Essentially, when a helicopter is falling out of the sky, the blades themselves from the wind, just like if you took a fan and whooshed it, the wind would turn the propellers. The wind that does the propellers essentially gives it enough lift to at least land softly. It doesn't just fall out of the sky. It's kind of like an umbrella falling. It's not going to stop you, but it's going to slow you down. And I believe that they can make genuinely safe landings most of the time, even if the engine goes out. With the Osprey, if the engines go out, our president is gone. So we talked about this then, and we even talked about the scenario of something happening and Marine One going down or something like that, because there was a lot of talk about it. I think it was when he first got hit and the guy at the golf course. We talked about this again with the second guy that was at the golf course that tried to take him out. So we talked about Marine One, and now you've got this close call with Spirit Airlines. I think they're either being too paranoid or they're covering something up. Like they had to land because they were worried that they were going to get hit by an RPG, or that they were worried about an EMP, or they did get an EMP again. Here's the thing. They have small backpack 5-mile wide radius devices and smaller. They could make it to where it's a block radius of EMPs. Like, I wonder if something like that happened. I bet Marine One would be EMP proof, but that's just a guess. Did something more serious happen? They auto-rotate, landed, and then said, oh, it was just a minor, hydraulic. We don't know if they're telling the truth. They have the ability to lie because this is national security. But it is very, very odd, and especially after Charlie Kirk, after all of the talk about all of the celebrities and Elon Musk, and everybody's beefing up their security, all the Congress, everybody's beefing up like something is about to happen. What if we did see another assassination like what we saw, and it's somebody even bigger. I think that would throw us right into a civil war. If Donald crashed in a helicopter, it doesn't matter how natural it was, people would be livid. People would be out in the streets tonight. And whether you love him or hate him, that is the reality if he gets taken out. And I believe that there is a group of people that genuinely want to not only take him out, but to start that, because that takes us down a peg. It allows them to move in. I mean, think about this. There's been so many stories about companies that essentially go in after the wake of a tornado, and they go in and give their business card and say, "Oh, I can do this," and they buy up the land, super, super cheap because nothing can be fixed, right? Well, there's things that can happen. There's big companies that might start with black and might end with rock that would totally buy up huge swaths of land if something was destroyed or something happened. People say, well, why would we build all of this infrastructure, put the new generation of internet if somebody's going to destroy it? Well, think about this. If we destroy it all, just like any massive disaster where an entire city's damaged, we rebuild. Not only is it jobs and people working, it happens. We rebuild. They would rebuild it, and those companies and probably the shadowy people at the top, those are the people that get paid for it. So just saying. I hope that our gut feelings, and I say our because I've gotten emails from all of you guys saying the same thing. I think that we are on the precipice. My intuition says that it's going to be 6 to 9 months maybe, but no more. Like, we are at World War III. That doesn't mean instant end of the world and everything goes black. Marfooglenews.com/EMP. Go check it out. Again, go get yourself a device in protection. I hope you guys join us for our next show over on Marfoogle TV. We're going to talk about even more. You can go over to our website, marfooglenews.com, and get a full bibliography. That's, again, if somebody's unfamiliar with the show and they just see the titles or the thumbnails, they might think we're fear-mongering or something like this. And I'm gonna talk to specifically one of my friends on the next show. So make sure to tune in for that. I'm going to essentially talk straight to him. So check in for that. 2 close calls in 2 days. Again, President in Danger. You can find all of the links for today's show right there, marfooglenews.com. We will see you guys in just a minute over on Marfoogle TV. If you are watching the replay, please click above my head. If you're in chat, stay there. You'll be ported over automatically.